I'm wondering whether the word supercharge resonated with you.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, so all I would say to you, and again, this is not coaching session, but something relevant to adding it to the behavior section is, like you've written that word down, so you know you were writing some notes, but there's somewhere where that supercharge for you, you know, has some empowering connotations with that specific word. So again, you know, after this session, you can explore with yourself what in supercharge resonates, you know, what maybe bit of that is not there for you in your behavior, or whatever, or what bit of that maybe could be more there in your behavior. And then when you take that word, look at, I think some of my screen has disappeared because I usually have a heading there, but anyway, look at that here and just start to think, well, okay, so I want to be more supercharged daily. So what behaviors do, or what type of person do I see? I'm trying to see if you can see a real, are you still there, Julie? You can hear?
Definitely, I'm 100%. I'm right.
What type of person in my life, or what type of real person in the media or in business is a person who I see as supercharged? And then start to role model them, and then daily, what are the what are the sort of supercharged behaviors that they might do? And then I get people to come up with 5, but you can maybe come up with 1 or 2. And you know, here this person wants to communicate better. They're an introverted person. You know, there may be a data analysis person that, you know, they're not used to doing these types of behavior, but they may be asked to take on a more forward-facing team role where they project manage some people in their team, and they want to do it, they're motivated to do it, but they maybe lack some of the behaviors. So here they can start to role model a person who is more extroverted, more team-focused. And some of those behaviors are coming in, saying hello to every member of the team, asking them for updates, taking regular breaks from the desk to go meet people in their team, you know, maybe go to the water butt and start some conversations, take a lunch break with someone that you don't know so well in the team, ask them throughout the day some questions on their role, what they enjoy, what they find difficult, and listen daily and repeat back from each person what you're hearing them say. So those are all types of behaviors of someone who is introverted, but has the commitment and the motivation because they're taking on a new project and they see that's part of maybe leading a more forward-facing project role that they've been asked to take on. And those type of behaviors repeated daily, if you are aligned with them and motivated to do them, will absolutely get you to the place where you want to get to. Is that all right? Yeah.
Very practical approach, because I mean, I suppose I do sort of find words which resonate and all of that, but it's actually what you're saying is that, you know, really transforming that into a behavior, and a behavior that becomes then, you know, almost second nature, which then becomes, you know, almost an unconscious behavior after a while that you automatically. And that I think has been missing so far for me, and I think that's what I'm very excited to actually do that afterwards, to change that whatever this supercharge is bringing me, to make it really into an action behavior, which I will then, you know, make sure that I repeat, since it's missing now. It's obviously something that I haven't been doing, so that will then really enable me to take it to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. And where the gold is firstly becoming aware of it, which is great that you hooked yourself onto a word, because that's half the battle is finding maybe that little bit missing, because just some people don't know, or some people don't care, or they don't do this type of work. You've hooked it onto a word, you can take that forward and then just find the 1 or 2 types of things that you can do, small, and you know, I've named them here. They're very simple things that will only take you 1 minute or 2 minutes. I've made it super simple so that you can achieve it. The harder you make these things, the harder it likely is to get the behavior change. So, you know, 1 or 2 things that you can write down and commit to every day and tick them off every day to get that behavioral change for that little bit of thing that you saw, which could be supercharged for you. whatever.
Make the
So
whole difference.
that's the process of the goal setting, of the who, behavior, belief, and this is how it looks in how it plays out in real life. And it's all about, you know, getting people to do the stuff in real life and making it easy for them. So write your own 5 weekly behaviors, daily behaviors. I mean, obviously it's got to be daily. I put weekly there, but it's weekly for you to check off on the chart. And then I give people a chart, a 3-month chart, which I break down into 3 blocks of 4 weeks, so you can see each month. And it literally is you know, a chart and a sort of a crisscross of Monday to Friday. I mean, I do Saturday and Sunday as well, and just you know, write down what it is you did, what it was you did on the behaviours. Score yourself if you want to. Maybe you see if there's something on that list you're not doing. Yep. If it's not important to you, take it out and do something different. It really is about being flexible with it. And so that's the bit that I've just shown you, is the way that you achieve the results in your life, how you set that goal, how you become aware of low performing behaviors, how you set yourself higher performing behaviors, how you notice the negative self-beliefs. That is how you get results in life. And we all know that as coaches, but that's how it plays out on a simple daily basis.
Yeah.
Now we move on to passion. So where does passion relate in all of this? Like, okay, so you've shown me results. I get that. What passion is there for as a tool, as an acronym, is it's there when we get tripped up.
Yeah.
Because we will get tripped up, because everyone goes on these lovely courses and they go, yeah. And I read this on Twitter the other day, and it's like the guy was saying, you know, the happiness and the kind of the emotional buoyancy and days that you get from going on a course and meeting loads of great people and having a breakthrough and saying, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And it's like the person that says they're going to give up smoking or go on a diet. And it's like, yeah, you could probably do that for a couple of weeks. And they always say people buy a gym membership and 2 weeks into January, they give up. And it's that's where the pedal hits the metal, as they say. That's where you really show what you're made of, because when life happens and you're on a diet and then 2 weeks into January, your boyfriend's cooking you lovely meals, or you're getting bought chocolates and biscuits at work, or whatever it is, and life and environment meet you and your goals, we're human and temptation kicks in and we get bored of doing those goals, or, you know, we get fed up of writing things down every day or saying what we're going to do, or, you know, and it doesn't get so exciting anymore, because it can be hard work or boring or monotonous, but it's how committed you are to that. So passion is the 7 tools that will help you in those moments of where you're hitting the wall, and you're getting the temptations, or life's happening, or maybe something sad happens to you one day and you're like, oh, I don't feel like it today, I'm really depressed and low, or there's a really nasty car driver that cut me up and that's put me in a mood for half a day. Or for the afternoon, I read something on Twitter that somebody said about me or my business, and oh my gosh, I question myself now. It's those moments where passion, we can look at each tool, and somewhere in those tools will be an answer for that environmental bashing that we're getting.
Yeah. Just get us over that hurdle, because as you say so rightly, we are human and we will have setbacks and we will have moments when we forget, and those courses are fine. You come away, you're on a mega buzz, but because you're also surrounded by all those people, and then we come back to our daily lives where we're maybe not surrounded by such positive, uplifting people who then start doubting our big plans and our big dreams and all of that, and before you know it, you're back at their level, whereas we should be so strong that we're taking those around us up to our level, the level of that buzz. And that, I think that is what your tool set here does do. And I have the screen in front of me, it's the permanently shifting, which is important, is the really, you know, once and for all, instead of every single January starting a diet, really integrating it into who you are by reminding yourself with these tools every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, it's those daily reminders in the moment of how can I bring this back in the moment. Like now, when I lost your picture, and I could have let that put me off and gone, oh no, well, we need to get your picture back. And it's like, no, you have to just quickly let go in the moment. What do I need to let go of to move this forward? And I think that's some of the things that I take different actions on that I wouldn't have before. I would have got caught up on the whole, I need to see your picture. If we're recording this for YouTube or whatever, people will need to see your picture. It's like, no. You need to move this forward, you know. So it's constantly looking for those bits where you're going to get tripped up. So it's not only in the moment getting tripped up, but also here, as I've got on the screen, is we get tripped up by the way the brain works as well, because our left brain is the reasoning side and our right brain is the memories. So when you're setting these new goals and saying, oh, you know, I'm going to be a coach who's teaching Google and LinkedIn and Apple workshops, and your left brain's going, well, hang on a minute, that ain't going to happen because you call yourself a coach, and it starts reasoning with you of all the reasons why you're not a good coach. And then the right brain memories goes into all your memories and goes, well, hang on a minute, you've only been doing coaching 6 years, and where are the big clients that you've had? I mean, okay, you've maybe had one big client here or maybe one big client here, but come on, Rachel, like, where are your consistency of? So the brain is trying to trip you up and show all your memories for why you shouldn't do something, and all the left brain reasoning, you know, and it's just, your brain is going to trip you up. And no matter what the emotional right side is doing, going, oh, well, I've gone on this amazing course and I can do it. And like you say, when other people are around to lift you up, it's easier. But in the moment when it's the day and, you know, you're weeks later and you're tired or you don't want to, then the emotions play against you rather than play for you.
They've been there for so long, I suppose, right?
Say again?
They've been there for so long. They're totally integrated. They are.
Exactly, that's your conditioning, isn't it? So the conditioning is there of how you will automatically react in a situation of challenge. So as I said on the screen, your limiting beliefs will always win. So my job is to increase your awareness using the passion tool set to become aware of when this is playing out, when these moments are there. And that was the word I couldn't remember. I was trying to remember a couple of minutes ago. Staying awake. So just practicing more staying awake. And I was able to wake myself up when I was wasting too much time on, I need to see Julie's picture. Stay awake, you know, and practice your awareness, but then look to passion as almost a catalogue of, you know, what am I bumping up against here? Where is the obstacle? What's going on here? And you'll know, because you'll feel that slight uneasiness throughout your day of, I'm not feeling like I'm in control, or I'm in the zone, or I'm aligned, or whatever, and it just feels like there's something not quite. I think it's possibly just being in control, and where have I lost the control, and how do I need to get back on track? So that's what the passion toolset is. So if I go on to the next, okay. So let's start with P. Are we all ready to start with our P? Can you hear me, Julie?
Can you hear me?
There?
Can you not hear me anymore?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
I couldn't hear you then.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah, I haven't touched anything. I hope I'm not.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So P is for power. And again, you know, jump in with anything that you saw from reading the book, Julie.
Yeah.
But what I'll do in the book is I'll give my definition of what power is. And, you know, P for the power is the most important one, I feel, for people to get, because it's kind of like the core, and from that you can then move out to all the other ones. But if you haven't got this one sorted, you give a lot of your power away. It's not going to go so well with the other you know, tools of passion. You have to get this one straight for yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, this one comes from, as I said, begin to understand your energy source. And that's partly why I came up with this picture of the little guy plugging him or herself in. So this little guy knows where to get their energy, and they know where they know when they need to source it, and they know how they need to source it, and they know when to unplug, because they need to unplug from the world, because the world becomes a bit too much and they just need to unplug and get away. And so a lot of this is where, you know, people talk about, oh, we're on our phones too much, or, you know, we're in our heads too much analyzing things, or we're maybe giving too much to people. You know, so it's I don't know, for me, it's a feeling I get when I know I'm feeding myself with good energy, and I don't know if that's the same ontological feeling that everybody else has out there, but I'll know when I need to leave a room,
yes,
or stop talking to somebody, or give myself some quiet time, or whatever it might be. But you just know when you're running out of energy and things are getting a bit too overwhelming. So
totally. What I really related to in the book as well was the idea that we all know when we are being drained by somebody, but what it took me years to learn is that it's okay to walk away in a polite and respectful way.
yeah.
You know, I would always want to be always the one feeding others. You know, I have a huge amount of energy, so lots of my friends, you know, they use me as a petrol station. There are some where you do realize over the years they just constantly drain you, and they take no responsibility for their own life. And it's taken me, you know, well, 40 years or so to get to the point where some people I choose to only see them for the amounts that I really need to. You know, I don't want to still stay friends there, but it cost me a lot to get to the point of realizing that those people set me back. They literally vampire all my energy out, and that it is okay to say, no, actually, I don't want to see her today. And it's, yeah, I don't then need to go on a mega guilt trip of what sort of a friend am I to not always be around, because she also has responsibility for actually taking action for her own happiness. So I think, I mean, I wrote down quite a few things there after this chapter, even though I thought, you know, I had it all. I had about, you know, making sure that the glass is full, about attaching less emotions to the process. I thought was very interesting when you mentioned that in the chapter as well, and checking what drains and recharges. The guilty about me first, because that, I think, in particular as women, and in particular as mothers, we find that a bit of a fine line. However, over the years, and I have 3 now big children, one's only still at home, that, you know, if I let them drain me in their negativity or their rebelliousness or whatsoever, it doesn't make me a good mother. And every now and then, yes, I do need my alone time, or go off and spend an evening with my partner or something without feeling guilty, because I come back fully charged and ready to be a good mother. And that if you get, you know, pulled to pieces by children or whatsoever, you end up saying things which are not in line with who you are, and you end up behaving in ways which are not, you know, authentic, where you're reacting rather than being yourself. And that it is that we need that. We need to feel that we are walking the talk and being that right person. And sometimes that does mean stepping back and thinking about me first. I thought that was a very powerful section, if I can say the power.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, oh, it seems so simple. Like, people would go, well, I understand, you know, what it is to be at the source of my own power, if you like, you know, like I understand who I am, and, you know, I give to my family first, they're most important, and then my work comes second. But is that really the case? You know, because a lot of people are putting other things first and they're not realizing, so then they're not aware. But I think another bit I talk about when I run this as a workshop is, I talk about the idea of powerful leaders, and that traditionally, maybe 100 years ago, the way we would see a powerful leader is they are dominant, that it's probably quite a masculine energy, and, you know, it's someone who likes to control and manipulate and, who's very self-expressive and who's very loud and etc., etc. But now we read a lot more books on the idea of and maybe this is something that's come about in the last 20 or so years as learning and development and HR has taken more of a stand within businesses that putting people first, and it's not about the leader who is the egotistical maniac who goes around conquering and ruling and dividing, but very much the leader who brings everyone together. And for me, when I see charismatic leaders, and you read about it in books, is they are the ones who go into a meeting and they're very quiet and they listen to everybody. And you can almost see it. It's dripping. Power is dripping off them because they ooze a quiet confidence, but also they bring an energy and a calmness to the room, and you can look in a room and you can know who is the more powerful person there. And it might be the person in charge, it might be the CEO or whatever, but it may not be. But you will always know, and you will always look to them because they're usually the one that is the quietest, that speaks last, and that they know, but by saying less and less, that they are in a more powerful position, because the more you say, the more you give away. And I think there is this mistaken thing that someone who is self-expressed and who's talking a lot is powerful and confident, etc. But a lot of the times when we're speaking and we are venting off this energy and words, we're losing power because we're almost looking to seek back validation. It's something I do, is I'll say more and more because I'm thinking they didn't hear me right.
I know.
I haven't heard it back from them yet. I haven't heard it back from them. I need to hear that they get me. They get me. And they might have got me, but I just didn't hear it because I'm too busy on broadcast. So this is, for me, power. I know my hands are going, but for me, power is this thing, is this exchange going on constantly of what we're putting out to the world and what we're getting back.
Right.
And also that once we get in control of that, and we know that we don't need to put out to get back, that once we've got that exchange right, and we know that actually we get it from here first, we get the power and the validation from here and what we do here. And that then once we've got that, we've got an endless source of power, because we know that we can recharge it, not expecting it to come back from the world.
Indeed.
And then once we have got this rechargeable battery in ourselves, because my rechargeable battery is, I do certain things that are like the no-go areas that I have to do every day. And there'll be things like drink a whole litre bottle of water, go for a walk with the dog in the countryside, and just in sort of where I can just have my downtime, plug in. I feel like I'm literally plugging into the countryside when I get there, with the fields and the animals and stuff. And that's not the same for everybody. They have to go find their place that they plug into, which might be a book that they plug into. It might be a place, a scenario, going to drink a coffee, whatever it might be. But you have to plug yourself into something in the morning. I do my exercise. Again, that's plugging in and that's sourcing my energy. And then I get the hard tasks done in the morning, so I then feel that I'm sort of better focused for the day. And then I, maybe don't take those certain phone calls that are coming in, or I play some music that, again, recharges. So once we've plugged ourselves in, we can then start to give, because a lot of leadership and power is about being able to give to other people. But you can't do that till you've plugged in and know when to unplug when it all comes a bit too overwhelming. And as I said there, leaders, they understand that they are the environment, they create the environment. And this whole idea of this military concept of this is your watch, no matter if you own the company or if you don't own the company, or you're just an employee on the company, you look at it like, if I am giving my energy to this webinar, or going to work for a certain person, or going to have a certain meeting, even though I don't want to be there, this is my watch. and no one goes down on my watch, and I give my best on my watch, and I am proud of it, and it doesn't matter whether I don't feel like I'm getting paid enough. That's something you need to sort out with yourself, your value. But if you are doing something in that moment, be there, be 100% there, and role model the best behaviors and seek to positively impact everybody in there. And that is being powerful.
Right.
So, yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Anything else you'd like to add, Julie?
No, I mean, I just, I'm scribbling notes fast here. It totally resonates with me what you're saying. And we can only give when we have something to give. So if we're empty, we fill first.
Yes, yes. And yeah, my students last year, when they did this one, it did really resonate with them, the idea of either giving too much or resenting because you're giving certain things and you don't want to be there or don't want to do it. So you have to get the power exchange right. Yeah. Have to get it right, because if you don't, you'll either be giving too much, you'll be giving too little, you'll be resenting certain people, you'll be resenting yourself, you'll be getting stressed, overwhelmed, tired out, or you just won't be communicating properly with people in your lives, or you'll get frustrated with people and things in your life. So this is definitely a source for stress, for most stress that people feel in their life. And my favourite quote from the book for this is, if you pursue excellence, not money, it's like a beacon. People see it, and then the markets move the money to the excellence. Yeah. And that was Greg Glassman, founder of CrossFit, talking to Lewis Howes. So yeah, it's this whole idea of what are we in pursuit of? And if we are pursuing the money or the fame or the, I just want the boys, I just want the relationships. What are you pursuing that is constantly filling an empty hole, as opposed to if you pursue something that fulfills you and fills your hole first, then you're fulfilled. You don't need anything. You don't need the validation. You're not looking for that validation of money or people or being sexually adored or whatever it might be. And then the markets move the money to that excellence, because it is like a beacon. When someone, like we were saying, when someone has that inner confidence, people will move to you. You will find your tribe. You will find your community, because you're living proof, and people want a bit of that. So, yeah, that's the main power section for me. I call it the magic wand, understanding the source of our power. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Yes, Julie?
Yep.
Okay. Right. A is for authenticity. Understanding your values, recreating them regularly, always using these principles to guide what you're doing inside and outside of business, always having clarity. So before you agree to meet somebody, or why am I doing this, why am I having this phone call right now? Why have I agreed to spend my time on this project? Why am I meeting these certain friends? Have I agreed to too much? I've got so much going on right now. Always know before you commit to something, is this what I really want to do, and does it fit in with my values? And if your values are not met, then action is needed always. Not to complain about it, to moan about it, to blame someone else. If something's not, resonating, or it's not going to fit, or it's not going to work, don't just go along with it just because you're trying to be a nice person, because that's not actually going to end up you being a nice person. Just action is needed. Again, a behavior is needed. Whenever something is jarring, misaligning, banging against a wall, action, some type of look at your behavior.
I
And
found
what is it?
this
Yeah,
was,
go on.
yeah, and it's worth the effort. I mean, I thought this part, well, it certainly made me think a lot, even though, I've been working for years with my values. It's still, I mean, I see I've written loads and loads and loads and loads here. And I mean, it's worth the effort. There's a lot of work put into actually, really finding your authentic values, not a shopping list of what we think we should be or what other people think we should be, but what are really those things which count. And I see here, I've written an awful lot. So it's a lot of work. I remember that day thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going around in circles here. And then I would go to the next exercise or the next section and it would take me that bit deeper. Um, but it's really worth doing it because you're right. When you have this, it basically guides everything. So it's actually makes life a lot more simple. We just check all of our decisions. Are they in line with my values? Is my compass pointing in the right direction? And then that, yes, that's what you should do. Most of our life is lost in wondering, should I do this? Should I do that? What will this give me? What will that give me? Whereas once you have this bit, succinct, and who your authentic self is, it makes decisions of all levels a lot easier, and that gives that fulfillment of knowing you are being truly you.
Yeah, and where this played out in my life, which I don't know whether I touched on as in depth in the book, because I've now expanded on some of the examples from the book, was my son, when he was about 11, 12 years old. Throughout his whole schooling, he hated school, and when he first joined school, I had to sort of try and get him into school. He wouldn't put his uniform on. I mean, we had so much screaming and crying in the morning, trying to get him down the stairs. Once I had to lock him outside in the garden because he was screaming so much and he wouldn't put his uniform on. So I think I put his uniform outside and said, "Put your uniform on." Oh, it was a nightmare. And we got to school and he'd be crying and he'd be banging on the doors to come home. So I had a lot of that going on. And when we went into, senior school, I changed schools to help him to a more pastoral care kind of school. And again, he was still struggling and his grades he was getting D's and E's. And before I moved schools, the previous school had said to me, "Is your son deaf? Can you not hear?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, no, he can't hear you because he doesn't want to listen to the way you're talking to him." But this is when I got into coaching and I started to understand, because I had it that what's wrong with him? Why is he not listening? Because I used to do this whole command, the whole masculine leadership of command. If I do things for you, you must do things for me. And I think I mentioned this in the book. And I couldn't understand why, I'm being his parent. He should be respectful and, he's failing and da-da-da-da. And then when I started coaching, I could see that actually he wasn't failing. It was that I saw myself as a failure.
Yeah.
It comes from the authenticity of thing. I wasn't being truly authentic. I wasn't being real with him because I wasn't being real with myself. I was being so nasty to myself because, again, I saw myself as a failure. I was a single mom. I'd chosen to divorce my partner. There were so many places where I saw myself failing, but actually I wasn't failing. I was succeeding because I was achieving where I needed to be in life. And where I needed to be in life was coaching people, caring for people through coaching, through writing a book, through writing an amazing workshop. And this was on my journey to get there because I'd already started coaching and I was already doing very, very well in coaching, but I still kept seeing myself as failure because in my head, I wasn't in the corporate world. I wasn't a CEO of a business. I was trying to be a coach. What's the matter with you? Why are you trying to be a coach? Oh, you messed your marriage up, you're messing your career up, your son's not doing what you're telling him to do, but it's because I was going about it all wrong.
Yeah.
And I had me as the failure, so I had him as the failure. And when I changed that whole thing, and I was authentic, and still I find it hard to be authentic today about myself and appreciate myself. But this is what this authenticity bit is getting in alignment with what conditioning do we have, and truly valuing ourselves and then valuing others. And then the moment that I started, and I was coached on this, to just step in and be supportive for him. So when he was struggling, rather than telling him what to do, just say, what is it you need? What can I do to support you? And our relationship changed from an arguing, me tell him, to, more supportive. But, you know, there still have to be parental guidelines. I still have to be the strong parent for him. And I learned also to be a strong parent as well, and learn that it's okay to say no and to have to really stretch that muscle, because in providing that strength, even when I don't, I provide the strength for him. So this authenticity section for me was very much about understanding what blocks was I passing to him, and really difficult for me to you know to see where I was, you know, judging myself, and that was, those values were being passed to my son. It really is very I believe with the DNA of human beings being born, that we not only pass hair traits, eye traits, body traits, but we pass emotional traits as well. And then we have the ability to change that.
They model how we are.
Yeah.
Or they think they should. So they have their own conflicts with their own self inside. So, no, very powerful part.
Yeah, yeah. So this section is very much accepting yourself and accepting others, and it was one of the most pivotal for some of the students last October. One of the students, it almost seemed to change her life. I mean, she used those words, "It's changed my life."
I can imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, in looking at this section.
You discover yourself, really. It forces you to really discover who you really are and to question.
Yeah. Yeah. Because as coaches, we provide all the tools, don't we? Like in the book I mentioned about a values elicitation exercise, which a lot of people, you know, don't even, I don't even understand the word elicitation. Well, I kind of know what it means, but you know, but we can teach them to go through the whole process of what's important to you and then rate it, which I do in the book. But some of this can be quite deep work.
Yeah.
Because it's so buried of how we look at ourselves. Anyway, so that's the authenticity bit. Be authentic, which is used a lot now in business. Oh, you know, let's be authentic.
Yeah.
So if it comes from a leader who is being authentic, then great. But if it's coming from someone who thinks they're using it as a buzzword,
then they're not authentic, right?
then that's what?
Then they are not authentic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because a lot of it is them being authentic and showing people that they're being authentic.
But it's not just a word, it's actually walking it. It's actually being it. It's not just a word. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So this first S of passion is saying what you're going to do. This is huge, really huge, because, you know, every day I see people or speak to people or read some things, you know, people I know who maybe are not saying what they want to do because they're scared, or because no one else is doing it, or it will look bad, or they won't be fitting in, or it doesn't fit in with their role as a mom, or
you won't be accountable. If you say you're going to do something out loud, then, you know, then you can be held accountable. In your head, you can have this crazy dream, but you know, you're not being held accountable for it. If you say, I am going to write a book out loud, you know, you've already started creating it, and people will say, well, where is your book? So once you say it, it's pretty scary, because you're going to have questions which will keep you accountable to it, which is why it's so incredibly powerful to actually say it out loud. And then your book did come at a very good time for me, because I had just been to this big summit in London about the new paradigm of women leaders, etc., where I suddenly realized that, you know, I've been helping lots of people do their thing, but what about me stepping into my own light and actually saying out loud, this is what I'm going to do? And I did. After that chapter and working on it for a while, I actually did say to my parents certain things that I was going to do. So now, you know, everybody, my children, everybody believes in me. Everybody believes that I am going to do it, which means I am going to now, you know, be held accountable.
Yeah. And the overriding emotion is fear. Is I'm going to look stupid. I might look stupid. I might make And you know, and again, a lot of that comes back to the tribe. We are tribal. Human beings are built to be connected to each other, and if we are not part of a tribe or a community or accepted, there is a big, you know, you're going to look bad, and you know, like I liken it to the wolves, and the wolves, when there's an injured wolf, the wolves turn their back. So at night time they all sleep together, and then the wolves turn their back on the injured one, and the injured one has to go away and dies. You know, and it's that horrendous. Mother Nature can be the most powerful force in the world, and you know, we can be rejected, and that's a lot to do with Mother Nature. So you know, and people like you and me, Julie, were very independent, and you know, I feel a lot stronger to be with myself and the children, and not to need someone in my life. But also, a lot of the joy from life comes with being a part of a group, of being part of a partnership, being sharing yourself. So it's, you do kind of have to get the balance of, yes, I don't need that energy, I don't need that validation, but being and contributing to other people as well.
You know, you're talking about the tribe and you know, our need to fit in and our need to feel accepted and admired, or at least recognized for who we are. We do need that, but sometimes I also feel that then it's maybe also up to us to make our tribe larger, knowing that obviously some tribes we don't really choose. You know, our families are there, and we do the best we can to connect and communicate with them with authenticity and respect and all the rest. But sometimes it's a question then, you know, if that particular tribe is holding us back from our dreams and our development, of then enlarging the tribe, meaning that they'll still be there, but there will be others in our tribe who will help and support us in our dream, in what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And the more we are emitting and being ourselves, and finding our skill and becoming excellent at our skill, and behaving ourselves into these higher performing behaviors, and being the best we can be, being the master, and you know, this is my watch, and I'm going to take care of people around me, and I'm going to perform, and I'm going to excel, and I'm just going to keep excelling my values even if I'll be rejected. The more we are going to attract a larger tribe, and more people will be attracted to that, because they can see you pursuing excellence, and you're not being afraid of rejection, and more people want that. They don't want to be rejected themselves, but they will follow that. So yeah, absolutely, you can certainly grow that tribe. But as I say here, ultimately the overriding emotion is fear and overwhelm. They'll have us play small, find it hard to commit. In everyday life, I mean, I did a landmark course, and it was all about looking at integrity, and it really fine-tuned down to the small details of lack of integrity, of what are we not completing every day, what are we agreeing to that we don't communicate back. So I always make sure I communicate back if I said I'd make a call, or if I meet someone and I don't want to have coffee with them, I'm not necessarily going to agree to coffee, because I have to, if I set an action, I have to follow it up. So I'll put a reminder in my calendar or something. Not that I'm perfect. I mean, gosh, we all lack integrity. We're human.
No, we strive to it. Yeah, we strive towards it. That's all.
Strive, exactly, exactly. And it's in that mindset of that's where I'm striving towards, is the beauty, not necessarily completing it. You'll never complete the. But we can be late on projects. We can not complete things. We're ignorant of our impact of what we said. So it's becoming more aware of what we're saying, of what words are coming out of our mouth, of what we're saying we're going to do. Really watch this. This is the most, your words are precious. Hold on to your words and give them sparingly, because it will diminish you bit by bit, because your brain will hear you promising all these things, or not completing the project or whatever. And your brain is going, oh my God, she said that, and she didn't do that, and she didn't do that, and she didn't do that. And it's diminishing you little bit by bit. And masters thrive from learning from that failure. And like you say, just thriving and striving towards things, but recommitting to goals that you don't achieve, and recommitting to the principles, or not. If it's not working, get rid of it.
Accepting that sometimes the goal has changed because we've grown. And that's always, I find, that fine line between when is it giving up and when is it actually having the power and the strength to say this is actually no longer applicable. You know, this has changed now. Not I've given up, but something else has happened which has added to it.
Yes, exactly. Being course correct.
Yeah.
Not being afraid to be flexible.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so on to the next one, which is once we know how to say things and say what we're going to do, it's learning to stick to what we say. And, you know, this is just as hard as saying what you're going to do. And because when we put ourselves out there, we're constantly always wishing we'd done it differently. Others do it better. We never acknowledge our special skills. There's a huge amount of power, resilience, fulfillment in someone who's responsible around their word, and who's responsible around the word of what they're saying to themselves as well, like the back chatter in your head. Be responsible around that.
Yeah.
Discipline your disappointment. That is massive. I got that from Tony Robbins a couple of weeks ago, and it really resonated. Learn every single day to discipline your own disappointment, because we are constantly disappointed with ourselves.
Yeah.
We are our own worst critics, enemies. Discipline your disappointment. Just like slap yourself and just be like, for goodness sake, this is ridiculous. Of course I'm always going to be disappointed, because I'm always wanting perfect. I'm always that little girl who wants to please her dad or whatever it might be. You've got to discipline the disappointment, because it's going to keep coming every day, no matter if you're the best coach in the world, the entrepreneur, the billionaire. I've heard interviews from billionaires and people who've achieved, you know, business after business after business success, but they still have disappointment. They still have the bad days. So we've got to be in, like, constantly disciplining what's going on out here, but what's going on in here. Yeah. Massive. That's the biggest thing I've learned in the last couple of weeks. Discipline your disappointment. Masters are present, they appreciate, they acknowledge, and they focus on the long term. Huge. Be present, focus on the long term, they appreciate, acknowledge, and just focus and just keep going. And that's what will get you through the sticking points of, oh, they're doing it better.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're always doing it better, for goodness sake, you know? So that's sticking to what you need to do. Eyes for index. And this is, I just thought about a snow globe then, and shaking a snow globe, and when it settles, everyone's snow globe looks different. And the other way I look at it is when you go into a supermarket, if you take a trolley in, and if everybody takes a trolley in, you come out with that trolley at the end, and everyone's trolley will look different. Because we were all chosen different ingredients, different brands. All our trolleys look different because we all make different choices. We are all conditioned to like different things. You know, and this goes back to things like we love animals in the UK and Europe. And then in China, they eat animals, and that would just be like beyond, you know, well, they eat animals. They eat dogs, sorry. We eat animals. But, you know, it's a lot down to the way we've been conditioned. What are our triggers? What habit loops are we stuck in? And when we look at specific habit loops, what I'm meaning here is the low-performing habit loops and the high-performing habit loops. So a low-performing habit loop is things like, look where you are if you're stuck and you're jarring and you're having negative feelings, it's probably because you're stuck in a habit loop of proving, protecting, hiding, defending, blaming.
Yeah.
Masters are always practicing acceptance, forgiveness, self-forgiveness, disciplining your disappointment, celebrating, and then committing, moving forward and creating. So they don't have any of that hiding, defending, blaming, proving, I've got to protect this. You know, if any of those emotions are going on, you're in a low performing habit loop. High performing habit loop is I am looking where I can forgive, where I can accept this is what's going on, where I can let go, where I can celebrate, and then I can commit and create and move forward, and then keep that habit loop going.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying here is, depending on what your index is, i.e. what your set of conditioning is, i.e. how you act every day, we all have set way of acting, and that is just kind of set in stone. But where can we look to change that and swap it with a different habit loop and just focus on different types of emotions? Because as I said, those loops that will be pulling us down will be focusing on negative emotions, which is the proving, protecting, hiding of this world. And we just need to get rid of those, because a lot of that is the shame and embarrassment that Brené Brown talks about, which again goes back to the tribes of, oh, I'm shameful or embarrassed because I've done something that's, you know, going to take me outside the group, take me outside the tribe. I'm going to look bad. Maybe I have to say something bad to somebody because they lack integrity or something. And that's going to be shameful for me. But actually, you're a better person because you've stuck to your values and you've had to say something negative to somebody else, or you know, had to sort of question them on something because it doesn't match what they promised you, what they promised themselves, whatever. So just really look for these emotions, because they will be coming from, and there'll be some good things about your index and your conditioning as well. So hold on to those parts of you as a person, because like me as a person, I'm honest. So, you know, hold on to that. But, you know, there's other parts of me that don't work so well. So look at where your conditioning is and how you can look for the higher performing conditioning. You're going to say something.
No, just exactly. Look at the ones that are not serving us. That's all. It's, you know, the ones which are serving us well, great. You know, whether we've worked those ones out and used them, then we're lucky and blessed to have them. But it's questioning the ones which do not serve us well. And what I did like about in the book, which I found also useful and helped make sense of it, is also, you know, the sections where, you know, how do you know when it's there and when it's not there, or how do you know if you're aware or not there, with specific, differently worded, different ways of knowing, which then mean that each one of us will recognize at least 2 or 3 of them. Mm-hmm. We all come from different places, as you say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at my notes, and I've said here kind of the power section for me is very much about letting go, just letting go of the old stuff. The authenticity section is allowing you and others to be. The saying what you're going to do and sticking to what you're going to do is about owning your impact and then surrendering to others and to the world. And like I said, to disciplining your disappointment. And then here in the index section, I've said this is very much the index section, and then the obstacle section is looking at how I can complete me.
Okay.
I can learn to complete me. Yeah. So I've very much kind of just put those into themes. Yeah, so that was that. And like, you know, what we've talked about, when it's not working, try something different. Love the imperfections as well. So yeah, that was mainly that section. O is for obstacles, or obstacle, because there's only one obstacle in life.
Yeah.
So it's one obstacle. 100% negative self-talk defeats most people. I think that I read somewhere that fear is a more overriding emotion than joy will ever be. Fear gets you.
Yeah.
It gets you. It sneaks in and gets you. We can't be with ourselves and our shame. I started to touch upon this about the Brené Brown, who is, if no one's read Brené Brown, they need to go read her. Shame, scarcity, comparison, and it transfers. So whatever, if we're telling someone off, or we're not happy with someone, a lot of the times it could be things we're not happy with about ourselves, but we're using it to transfer to relationships. And these could be some of our self-talk, and it's going to be defeating us and defeating other relationships. So look what the conversation is that's going on with yourself first. Masters learn to have compassion and empathy always. Empathy will defeat fear.
Yeah, empathy for ourselves, right?
Empathy will defeat, well, for ourselves and then for other people. So whenever we're fearful, if we can just be compassionate and have some empathy, the fear will go. Because once we learn to be vulnerable and share, about ourselves, or just listen to the other person and just be empathetic for what's going on with them or for the situation, it will defeat fear. And when you see that lovely human kind of communication with empathy, when someone's been vulnerable, and it breaks all the walls down, it breaks everything down. So yeah, if we can bring that into a situation when we can see there's an obstacle, negative self-talk, be a bit more compassionate and empathetic in that moment. Yes. I'm just looking at my notes here.
I wrote down some really things which really resonated with me in that bit. Here, when at the end, when you say what changes will you make? I mean, the first one I wrote was get out of my own way.
Yeah.
I seem to be the only one blocking everything.
Yeah.
Of course, all the imperfections. I liked your bit about fear is physical. So, solve it with something physical, with your idea of the ball. I thought, that I could really see the practical help of that for me. And also, very importantly, I am not the voice in my head. I am the one who can hear it. It's taking that detachment that we have a choice if we listen or don't listen. It's not us. It's a part. It's a thing which comes from something else. And sometimes, I mean, I know sometimes with my clients, I sort of say, do listen, and say, hello, I hear you, what are you telling me? Okay, thank you for that advice. I know you want to protect me, etc. But actually, I'm not that little girl anymore. I actually know how to do this now. So it's to not be so fearful of it that we panic and put our fingers in our ears, because that doesn't resolve. The voice is still there. I found this bit was very, very strong. I love the quotes that you had there. I have lots of quotes here underlined, and the calibration tool as well.
Yeah. And sometimes it helps just to say it, like, this is how I'm feeling right now, and own it. I think sometimes when people tell other people things, they're almost expecting the other person to own it or solve it.
Yes.
The big thing I've learned is just to be that I can speak what's going on for me, even if it's negative, but I don't expect the other person to solve it.
No.
I just want them to get that that's where I'm at, and I'm just saying it just to clarify the situation. I don't expect anything in return, and I think there's a lot of courage, and you can progress forward once you've said it.
Yes.
And I was feeling this
demonizing the fear. You're actually saying it out loud. It's not this demon which terrifies you so much, a bit like in Harry Potter, don't mention the word Voldemort. I mean, there it's literally saying, okay, that there is a fear, I'm acknowledging it, but because I can talk about it, it's not owning me.
Yeah. Exactly. And as I say, there is a thing where you do see other people telling other people there are problems and they want them to solve it back, but this is not what we're talking about here. We're, like you say, we're just letting it not own us, but we're not expecting anyone else to own it. We own it, we have it, but we're responsible for it, and we're, so sometimes I put it out there just to kind of play with it, see what comes back, because I think the thing is in my head is I don't have the answers, but I'm just going to play with it. And there's a lot of courage and leadership in that. And people don't see leadership like that. They see leadership as you've got to know all the answers. Yes. The leader is the one who says, I don't have all the answers. I don't expect you to own this for me, but this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm kind of dealing with, and in creating that environment where people can be vulnerable together.
And that's where power is to be so strong, and that you can sort of say, oh, I don't know the answer to that, but strong enough to say, but I can look it up for you.
Yeah, and as I say, provide that environment of, I am a leader, I am confident in what I do, and I will lead you, and you will be safe around me. So don't worry about that. But, you know, you've got to have this balance. You know, because we don't trust the leaders that say they know it all and they have it all, but they provide that safe environment. And also we must explore these things together, because if I can't teach you to explore, how are any of us going to get better, you know? So big one with the obstacles there. And then my favourites, I love navigation, and learning daily habits that either create or undo our aspirations, depending on what the habits are. And they direct us, they direct our family, they direct our business culture. And masters either learn to stay awake, either just staying awake is so critically important, or some masters measure, and they have the daily measures. Because I've, you know, big billionaires and podcasters out there who some don't measure, but they just learn to stay awake. There was the mindset monk, which I've forgotten his name, but I'll tell you if I remember later. But he just went and learnt to be a monk, and then he would get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. He'd have a couple of hours praying, a couple of hours doing mindset, a couple of hours reading, and then the rest of the day he'd go and teach in schools. And so he said, I never measure anything, I just learn and master staying awake. Other masters will just learn to successfully control the small bad psychological habits, because it's not the big things that are going to get you. It's the small little mistakes that we make throughout the day. It's those small little things that we just go, oh, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter that I didn't say that to them, or I didn't return that, or I didn't, you know, didn't say that in the moment. It does. That's the critical thing that's going to move you forward. Yeah. The small things that build, that build, and it becomes a massive momentum. It's like the small waves in the sea. They will build and build and build till they become a big tidal wave that can knock houses and cities over. So it's those, really call yourself to task, and in that moment, say what needs to be said, do what needs to be said, because it's the small psychological things that build to the big mistakes. Because then it just becomes a massive big habit, and then you just once you can learn to let the small things go, you'll let the big things go, because your expectations, your standards, you just let go. And it keeps us below our potential. And as I've said in my notes here, I've said there, undo your aspirations. Where I got the word aspire from was a lady called Judith Glazier, and she's an American coach. She teaches conversational intelligence. She unfortunately died, lost her battle to cancer about a few months ago, and a great loss. She was only a very young coach, and she had this idea of aspire, breathe life into. So aspire is literally breathing life into things. And so for me, what navigation does, i.e. what are the small daily habits that I'm bringing in, like I mentioned earlier about, okay, I drink my water, I do my exercise, I go do my half an hour just download in the countryside, I have to do all those things, and I have to hit the hard tasks first. What are those kind of daily things? You know, I text my accountability buddy in the morning. It's a system, you know, it's literally a system. I've got the tick boxes and the boards behind me. You can see my 3-month calendar. I've got the boards and the reminders and the, you know, the little nudges written into my daily life. You know, it's a system that I've created. And what are we doing to breathe life into our goals and our fulfillment and our values and who we want to be? And the way that we breathe life into these things is creating these systems. Because if we don't retune our brain, it will retune us. And as I say here, it's practice, practice, practice. Our brain is an old system that it has designed life for you. So that you read these things in books where actually there's a very small percentage of you that's actually living your life, because your brain is on a system, it's on a loop. And
it's like, who's driving the car, basically, right?
Yeah. And the moment that something happens that challenges you, you'll go into your old conditioned behaviors. And it's like, well, actually, I could cut myself short here and go, okay, I'm getting angry with this driver that's just cut me up. Well, what could I do? Actually, I'm not going to get angry because that's an old behavior, and I'm just going to be quiet and silent now, and I'm just going to let it go. It's not important. And actually, by doing that, you stop a fight happening, or you stop a car accident happening, or whatever. So what can I do where I'd usually go into an automatic response of, how dare they, or, you know, oh my God, they wrote a horrible tweet. I read something on Twitter, and actually I'm not going to let that affect me. And the rest of the day, I'm going to be really productive, and I'm going to be calm and quiet with this person. And maybe I'm going to write a private note to them. And actually, you write a private note to this person saying, oh, you know, that upset me or whatever. And then they turn around and go, oh, I've had a dreadful
yeah, oh,
on Twitter or whatever. And then you get into a big conversation. You end up in a lovely business relationship with this person or whatever. So where can you question in that daily navigation, or where can I interrupt behavior? Where can I stay awake? What can I be committed to in my daily nudges of where I go into my conditioning? How can I change the situation? Go beyond that old system. And navigation, for me, gives us the power to interrupt old behaviors and to go beyond our stories every day. Yeah. That is literally what we get to do, because we have these nudges, we get to interrupt that behavior, and then we get to go beyond each story. Because if we keep acting the way we always act every day, we're just going to keep getting the same results. So how can we rewrite the stories? Where can we question ourselves? How can we change them? And we change them by what I showed you at the beginning of writing out, what am I committed to? What better behavior am I committed to? And what daily thing can I do? So where can I change that to help us go beyond and achieve goals and achieve things that we currently wouldn't have done? Where are we procrastinating? Where are we overwhelmed? And where can we find the secret to where that overwhelm or procrastination is in any of the letters? And that is it. So I've got about 8 minutes left on the recording, Julie. Right. So I would love for you to say anything that's popped up in your head. Oh, just very quickly, if I show on the screen. So that's all the tools that I show you of how to kind of stop the challenges where you hit the brick walls. And then in the book, which you've seen, Julie, you've seen some of these anyway. What I share examples of in the book is examples, and I don't know if you can see that. Can you, hang on, you see that? Yeah. Yeah, and make it a bit bigger. Hang on. So these are examples of each of the tools for power, authenticity, saying what. So this is an example for power. This is an example of my 400 authors, podcasters, and role models who I aspire to, who I read. And the ones in red are the ones who've changed my life. Jeffrey Schultz changed my life on neuroscience. Judith Glazier here changed my life on conversational intelligence. And each of these categories I've put into brain, well-being, mindset, emotional intelligence, spiritual. So go set yourself, you know, one of these things up. Read lots of people. How can I be more powerful? Aspire to people. Categorize them so you can come back to them. Write the quotes down. So these are examples of great quotes, which I've got in the book as well. And then these are examples of people who I've got as powerful people at the top. Schwarzenegger, Oprah Winfrey, Will Smith, Rennie Morgan. These are people as I see as authentic. Glennon Doyle Melton. People who say what they're going to do. Marshall Goldsmith. So write some lists down of people who answer each category. So when you're stuck with index and your conditioning, you can go to Eckhart Tolle. So these are examples of tool sets I use. These are examples of tool sets I use for authenticity, which is a values elicitation exercise, which is what we talked about. And then a personal mantra. What is my mantra and how does it compare to the company mantra? Are we clashing with what I want and what my company wants? More about saying what you're going to do. This is my accountability text that I send to my buddy every day, and I've done that every day since about 2014, and that literally she is just she breathes life into me. She'll question what I say. I've got to know this girl closer than I know anybody else in my life. So that was saying what you're going to do. Another saying what you're going to do is ask yourself 5 questions during the day. Am I confident? What's my intention? Am I remembering to be present? What's something I love about myself? And where am I being playful and proactive here? Sticking to what I do, as you said, I write my appreciation acknowledgement. Find ways that it's going to work for you. I have my 3-month calendar, which is at my back here, which helps me and the kids know where we are, what we've committed to, helps them see how they can be more powerful. And then your index, look to your index, see where your conditioning is every day. So these tools, you don't have to use all of these tools every day. Just pick one of these tools where you see a gap, where you see something missing, which might be in the authenticity section, it might be in the index section. Just use one of these tools to help give you a boost. So with my index, with my conditioning, where can I be more spiritual, more emotional, more physical, more mental? Again, with the index, look to see where you're kind of doing your fire ready aim, where am I behaving myself into things today? And then also on your index, what's stretching you, moving past the constraints. So what can I do today that makes me feel uncomfortable? Go do an action in that area, living in the zone. Your obstacles, sorry, I'm rushing through this because we don't need to explore all these, but these are things that we do in the 3-month course. And just your obstacles, what am I grateful for? Label the negative emotions like we were saying. Just decide good enough is better than the best decision. Hugs, go and get some hugs. It's so important for us to have that time. Yeah. Whoop, whoop. And obstacles, look at where we're looking through the Hollywood glasses at perfectionism. Look where people are looking too much at Facebook and going, oh my God, they have a perfect life, I don't. Rubbish, they don't have a perfect life. They just put the good pictures on Facebook. Be with your emotions and failures and disappointments. Discipline your disappointment. It's okay to not be okay, being with that emotion. And again, other obstacles, I get people to look at Tony Robbins, where he's all about becoming aware of your emotional state, what's your emotional state on other people, and Dr. Alan Watkins, who's a neuroscientist, who talks about the emotions are always there, but we haven't learned to process them. Most of us don't know that we have 34,000 emotions, therefore we have no control, let alone be able to map who's on planet social.
Wow.
Our emotions, how can we understand others' emotions? So once you get to a more effective planetary system, a bit more positive, a bit more progressive, a bit more performing, can you stay there? How do we stay there daily? And you need to be able to take subjective emotions and objectify it. What is my anger? Why am I angry? Separate yourself. The reason why this is so important to be aware of this negative self-belief and our emotions is they predict our health, our well-being, our fulfillment, our ability to make decisions. So important. And lastly, navigation. I've taught you the method of how to do those daily actions. This is an exercise from Marshall Goldsmith, which is great. So again, get people to look at that. And another way to navigate is to measure it, write it down. And lastly, navigating, what are you measuring? A lot of companies measure how many people are off sick, how many people leave the company, what were the sales figures for the month. These are the better measures because these will lead to the people not leaving, not being sick, absolutely smashing sales targets. Yes. How about measuring how many hours of the day you made count, how many hours you were actually present, and how long did it take you to go from something that happened to apologizing or just letting go of it? How long did it take? Sometimes it takes people 50 years to letting go and forgiving people, and sometimes they never forgive people. If we had these as key performance indicators, we'd never have the sickness, the staff turnover, the lack of high engagement, because we're just looking, like I say about the book, at how many hours of our day have we made count, and how are we going to capture that? What behavior can we do to be present and to notice when something's dragging us down and we're angry at someone?